And now speaker number 3, 2094, with the piece, How I Suffered Female Genital Mutilation by Shamsa Arawelu.
Thank you. Well, I grew up in Mogadishu, Somalia, and as a child living in a place where the practice of FGM was so normalized, we never saw anyone get it done, and so we just took everyone else's word for it. I remember when I was 6 years old, and we had practically the whole village coming up to us. I mean, people would say things like, Gabadiyar, you are going to do something amazing. You are going to be clean and more respected. You are finally going to become a woman. And so I knew I was doing something rather important from what everybody was saying. When we got to our grandmother's house, I noticed that there was a woman there, and all of my older family members were just standing around. And then they asked me and my cousins, okay, who wants to go first? Normally, I'm the first to put my hand up, but I knew there was no way I was gonna go. So I just stayed quiet. And that was the day that I was cut and sewn. According to researchers at the University of Birmingham, female genital mutilation, known as FGM, kills over 44,000 girls each year. But because 60% of FGM cases take place in African countries and 39% are dispersed throughout Asia and the Middle East, it goes completely dismissed by the United States. You see, too often, our privilege allows us to separate ourselves from issues by labeling them as foreign. And in the midst of the ongoing political climate, turning a blind eye to issues that do not involve us has become synonymous with being an American. In fact, this same lack of compassion has been evident in this very activity. Over the course of the season, I received comments from judges expressing their discomfort with this piece. And while I understand how difficult it is to hear such an intense experience, their responses reflect society's reluctance to confront issues of gendered violence and women's bodily autonomy. Shamsa Arawelu, a Somali-born survivor of FGM, advocates for bringing an end to the practice as she encourages others to reclaim their voices in order to inspire change. But more importantly, her story forces us to ask, how can we begin to fight for others when we have been taught that silence is more comfortable than solidarity? How I Suffered Female Genital Mutilation by Shamsa Arawelu. Well, we left the village we were living in and we came to the UK, London to be specific. I remained a virgin because I was absolutely terrified of sex. I was terrified of being ripped open. So I thought to myself countless times, how would it work for someone who has had a procedure like mine? If a girl had gone through FGM and she got married, they would either take scissors, a knife, or something sharp to open that person up. And so once I was 17 years old, I took a gap year. I decided to go to Somalia to embrace my culture. I wanted to see my family, get to know my land and my people. But as soon as I got there were grown men interested in marrying me. Well, not because of me, because of my British passport. But I said to them, marriage is not what I came here for. I was very opinionated. And so I remember once when I was in the shower, and I heard a massive knock on the door. I was at my cousin's house, and so she said, "Uncle is calling you. They have a lot of food downstairs, and a strange man." My uncle tells me to sit down. And then he says that this is the man he wants me to get married to? And then everything after that just happened so fast. They forced me into this hideous green dress with sequins on it. And then they tell me that I have to stay in a room with this husband for 7 days. And then they forced me into that room. Everything I did in there had to stay between me and my husband. I couldn't go outside. I couldn't go to the town or the market. I couldn't even speak to people. And so I remember when he was coming in, I just stood still in shock. Shamsa, you have two choices today. You can either get raped now, or just go with it. Just go with it so that it doesn't happen in a violent way. Just go with it, and then he will leave you alone. And then he started to come towards me. But because I was a virgin and I was sown, I started to tear, and that pain was overwhelming. It was crippling my entire body. So I told him to stop. I tried to get him off of me. But it didn't work. And so after the first day, I felt so numb. And by the fourth, I don't know what he did to my insides, but he had caused so much damage that I could not urinate anymore. I knew I had to keep it together. But once I had had enough, I went up to him and I said, "Don't touch me." And it was the first time that I spoke up for myself. And it had shocked him a little, because for those remaining 3 days, he didn't touch me. Oh, but after those 7 days were finished, my rapist went back to my uncle whenever I refused to have sex with him. And the advice that my uncle gave was to take everything that he wanted by force. And if I refused, then he would hit me. But I knew I had to find a way out. So I took his phone and I called my mom. The first thing I said to her was, "Is this what you wanted for me, Ma? To be beaten and forced into a marriage?" No, but you see, my mother had no clue about the forced marriage. I mean, she had no idea what I was being subjected to. Okay, so she tells me, "Shamsa, we need to get you out of there. You need to go to your husband and make it seem like everything is okay. Make it seem like you were in a good place with him, that you were forgiving him for everything." So I listened to my mother's words, but I knew I would not be safe until I reached the border. So I got on a bus, and I didn't say a word to anyone. I just wanted to make it back home. And I just constantly prayed and prayed. I kept my mouth shut. I just constantly prayed and prayed. And prayed. Finally, I came back to London, and I moved to a place where no one knew who I was. Oh, I started a new life from scratch. Honestly, that may be the best thing that I have ever done. You know, my family, the people that were supposed to protect me, they had just completely abandoned me. You know, FGM has been happening for so long in my community. It's become deep-rooted within our culture. Men think it's acceptable because they are so used to violating women. They are so used to violence against women. They think she is just another piece of property. And so that is why I feel for the girls that are trapped, the ones that are afraid of shame. Because in Somalia, when a girl goes through FGM, she's forced to marry, and the man just gets to open up the present that he is given. Her virginity, oh, and her womanhood. Everything has been kept for that one particular man, all while they shame and silence us. But oh, it is not okay to silence a woman. So if you have a voice, you must use it.